Hello, I'm Greg,
And I'm Noah.
and this is Dish Talk Episode 3, The King.
Man, it's been a little bit since we've made another one of these.
I know, and a Netflix movie, nonetheless.
I know.
Alright,
Anyway,
well,
hail to the king, baby.
hail to the king. Let's get right into this.
Avast you, foul beast! Back, I say, back!
Oh, Noah, I see the dishwasher is being disobedient again.
Sir Grego, pick up arms and join me against this foul creature.
Is that what we're doing today? Shrooms, I see.
Oh no, I just watched The King.
Oh, so did I. I did come into the office with a sword.
Oh.
Yeah. You
All
can never
hands
know when
hotly.
someone's going to stab you in the back.
You're right. Derek does look shifty.
The man who sleeps with a machete is a fool every night but one. Remember those words, Noah. Remember those words.
Okay. I
So,
will do.
since the dishwasher's not working, I guess we can't do any work.
Wait, we do work?
Rules are rules.
That's true. That is true.
I'm gonna grab this ice cream rack and sit on it.
Oh, yeah. So you want to talk about Netflix's 2019 movie, The King?
An actually good Netflix movie?
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. Let's get right into it.
I guess we're going to start with spoiler-free first.
Yeah, spoiler free. So this is the first movie we've reviewed on this channel where either of us haven't seen it.
Yeah, this is our first time.
Yeah, usually we one of us or both of us have watched the movie and we rewatch it to review it. But this time I just said, fuck it, why don't we just do this movie? It looks good. And Noah was like, okay.
Yeah. And I guess the short answer is I really like this movie.
I went into it half expecting to be disappointed because it's a Netflix movie, and let's face it, they don't have the greatest track record. Cuties. We're moving on from that.
I think that was made by a French company and they're just releasing it, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't know a whole lot about more in the movie.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I'm going to have to censor that.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Yeah, we're not going to get into any of those kinds of movies. If it looks reasonably good in the title and, the preview image and trailer, we'll possibly review it.
Yeah.
The King was one of those movies. So the spoiler-free review, it was fantastic, would you say, Noah?
There were parts that impressed me that I was not expecting.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the intro is a little bit slow, but as soon as he becomes king, it's like a rocket, and it just like takes off and doesn't stop.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's a 2-hour runtime, but I thought the movie could have went for another 30 to 40 minutes, to be honest.
Now, I'm somewhat of a historian when it comes to, like, medieval combat and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
this is by far the movie with the most realistic depiction of medieval warfare.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to like strategy and actual hand-to-hand fighting and how armor is used and sieges and how fucking obnoxious sieges can be. And I really appreciate that. And it's nice to see a movie that finally did its research. You know, it's not Jon Snow walking into a hail of arrows and somehow coming out free. Well, actually, you know what? I would say this is kind of comparable to Game of Thrones in quality.
That's fair. Season 1 through 4 Game of Thrones, not 5 through 8.
Really, you didn't like 5 and 6?
They had some good moments, but I don't think they stand out as like great seasons.
Damn. All right. Well, anyway, be warned though, if you're a little squeamish, this movie will not go over well with you. And if you don't like seeing kids get killed, this movie will not go over well with you.
Oh, that shocked me. I was shocked.
I loved it.
That at all.
I love it when movies have balls to do that kind of stuff.
It's not so bad to where, like, I don't know. I'm pretty desensitized to most movie gore, so this didn't really do a whole lot for me. But I thought it was pretty well done. It was tasteful. Nothing felt over the top. It wasn't gory just to be gory.
See, I don't really like that word tasteful. I don't really like it whenever it's used, because like death is death in my opinion, and it can just like come in any way, shape, or form. Like realistically, Leia should have died in episode 8, not only because the actor died, but because it was like the right moment to do it.
Greg,
what's up?
We're talking about Star Wars.
I know. It's the only thing I thought about.
We're not supposed to talk about Star Wars, Greg.
All right, dude, just leave me alone, man. But the only time...
You know what'll happen.
Stop. The only time I don't think character death is appropriate is when the actor gets fired. I feel like that's lazy. That's lazy writing. It shouldn't be a thing. Death is another thing, because... it's weird. I have weird feelings about it. But when it just comes to killing people, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then back to the Game of Thrones analogy, this entire movie is just the Red Wedding.
In a sense.
That's
to just
essentially
give a brief,
what this movie is.
To give a brief overview of this movie, because any spoilers I'm going to say in this part really aren't spoilers. They're things you learn really quickly. Henry V, his father, Henry IV, is dying. Henry V does not want to be king because his father's a giant, enormous jerk. His brother is useless, and he shouldn't be king. And
his brother's cute. He's adorable.
His brother's cute, yes. So begrudgingly, Henry V becomes king and eventually decides to wage war on France. And that's all the spoilers I'm going to give you for this section. I like this movie. I recommend it a lot, I think. From here on, go ahead. I'll let you go.
I feel like it would be a lot less confusing if we called Henry V Hal, because that's like a lot of people call him Hal in this movie.
That's fair.
So I'm gonna refer to him as Hal from now on. Henry is going to be his father.
Okay.
Yeah, just a little quickness, and then there were some characters that I had trouble hearing the names of. Like I can't tell if it was like the accent or something. Like Prince Dauphin. I at first, for some reason, when I took a break from this movie, I went to go make some tea. I was thinking to myself, who would want the nickname Donut? Because I thought his name was the Donut, not the Dauphin. Also, is it like common in like French history for people to be nicknamed in such like a strange manner?
I have no clue.
What does Dauphin even mean? Does it mean dauntless or something? Because if it means dolphin, why the fuck would you want to be named the Dolphin?
Anyway,
we're
off topic.
That's going to be it for the spoiler-free review. We're going to get into the actual meat of this movie now. So pause, go watch it, come back if you want. I'm not holding you hostage or anything. If you don't care, continue watching anyway.
So,
child death.
Yeah, there is some child death. Not a whole lot of child death, but there is some child death.
So this movie is poetic as hell.
Oh my god, like Hal has such a way with words.
I think that like this movie is a great like criticism of warfare and how it's like glorified, because Thomas, the young prince, glorifies it. Like he's like, this was supposed to be my moment of triumph. Meanwhile, Hal, who's like pretty literal, just kills people, and he's like, no, death is death. You're going to die. You're inexperienced. You have no idea what you're doing. And sure enough, Thomas gets full of himself and he marches to another battle and he dies. He gets killed.
Off screen. He's so unimportant he goes off screen.
Yeah. And then like back to the intro. The intro was super weird because I thought Percy was going to be the main character or the main antagonist, but he's not, because he dies within the first like 10 minutes.
Yes.
He dies to Hal. And I think that made the intro a little useless. Actually, maybe it was just used to, show the horribleness of Henry and how stupid Henry is. Fucking hell. There were a lot
Henry
of
is an idiot.
really... So, there aren't a lot of well-known actors in this movie. There are a lot of good actors.
Oh, yeah. A lot of these actors are great.
These are the actors that play in like supporting roles in movies nowadays. They're never main characters, except for the guy who plays William, who played the villain in like the last 2 Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah, he did. He was great in this, by the way.
Yeah, and I think the guy who played what's his name? Hold on, John. The guy who plays John, I think, helped write this movie.
Okay.
Also, for those of you who don't know, this movie is based off of the Shakespearean writings called the Henriade. They're like a group of plays that I assume follow similarly to this story. I've never actually read any of them, but I do know that fact about this movie.
Yeah, neither have I.
So that's kind of why, like, Hal comes off as like this really benevolent character when probably his real life counterpart wasn't all that, and France kind of comes up to be, really evil, kind of sounding, and really mean spirited and childish.
I mean, only one person, and that was the prince, was like the worst.
Oh, dude, Dauphin was fucking was just awful. Also,
yes,
that actor, that's the same guy in Twilight, right?
Yeah, that's Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, they made Robert Pattinson look super young in this movie.
They did. This is probably the most unlikable he's ever been in a movie.
No, I hated him in Twilight. I hate Twilight. Just leave me alone. Anyway.
I guess that's fair. I mean, you look like you hate teenage girls.
I do. Anyway, I digress. But back to my metaphor on the criticisms of war. So there's a famous quote where it's like, in peace times, sons bury their fathers. In times of war, fathers bury their sons.
Yeah.
And this movie perfectly depicts that, because every person in charge is super, super young, and they fucking die. These people are like literally sub 16 years old, and they're going off to war to fight and inevitably die.
Yeah.
And then there's the one scene where it's literal 8-year-olds being killed, like when they're going to get wood.
That was shocking. Although I knew it was going to happen. Like, as soon as I saw them go into the woods, I'm like, oh, they're dead.
Yeah, you can always tell by, like, the camera angle and how it follows them. Oh, why are we seeing these strange characters? Oh, yeah. Shit, like, happens.
It's like when you see, like, Henry's brother, and I'm like, oh, he's going to die.
I didn't actually think Thomas was going to die, which surprised me a little bit. I don't know why. I just thought Thomas was just gonna, like, surrender himself to Hal after Henry dies, because maybe Thomas comes to the realization that maybe he is just an idiot. But yeah, and then another thing that this movie criticized was the church. Like, yeah, like fucking
the church is always wrong.
Shakespeare
always
criticized the church so much. Like, that probably branded him back in the day. Well, I'm not sure if Shakespeare did criticize, because again, I didn't read the source material, but this movie did. So I'm assuming that Shakespeare did. But yeah, all the bishops and priests in this movie are super lazy. They're really, like, ignorant to, like, war. and how things happen, and they're kind of pushing their own agendas, like they're the ones in actual power, when it's like, the king and stuff like that. Where should we start necessarily? Should we start when okay, well, actually, I know where we should start. So when Hal is coronated, he receives a quote-unquote gift from the quote-unquote French, and it's a ball. It's meant to be a childish gesture, and literally everyone in his court is like, this is an insult. You should go to war with France. It's an absolute insult. And Hal, being the critical thinker that he is just like, this is stupid. Yeah. Why would he go to war over a fucking ball? Get the hell out of here. What did you think of like Hal's reaction to like his supposedly bloodthirsty courtsman?
I like how he was calm and collected. It portrays him being a bit wiser from just all the horrible things he's already seen, and how his father ran England into the ground for years.
I don't think Hal has actually seen much combat, actually. Mm-hmm. I think, so he hangs out a lot with John, which is Sir John. He's a knight, and he's been a knight for quite some time, and he's seen a lot of battles. I think it's just John influencing Hal into how war actually is. Horrific, yeah. And we get a glimpse of that when Hal rides to save Thomas from fighting Percy. So Percy is already somewhat known to be a good fighter. By the intro sequence, he's victorious over a battle, and he has his own sword. He's dirty, so he's been in the battle. So we already have a lot representation for that character. And Hal steps up to the plate and challenges him one-on-one. I'm not actually sure how much this actually happened in real life. I know this happens a lot in plays, like when in the Iliad with fucking Troy, you have Achilles challenging Hector, and I think in history that's where the dynamic started. But I don't
think that's how all wars should be fought.
Yeah, I don't think that ever actually happened. So Hal has his duel with Percy, and this is how fucking fighting in armor is like. It's sloppy, it's horrible, and realistically, your sword is just for show. You're not actually going to be doing much fighting with the sword. It's more or less just a tool to like get your opponent on the ground, really, because you can like lock it around them and wrestle them down. But realistically, you're going to have a dagger to finish people off.
I think this movie would not work if the main character was not compelling. And Hal is extremely compelling. And the actor who plays him is fantastic.
Is that actor like well known or something? Because I feel like he should be.
I don't think so. I don't recognize him at all.
All of the young actors in this movie were surprisingly super good.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, did you know that Robert Downey Jr.'s daughter was in this movie?
Who'd she play?
The Princess of France.
Interesting. I don't know why I asked that. There's only like 4 women in this movie. And only one of them could likely be his daughter. Oh, God.
So I guess we'll... after the ball, his court takes as a defense. He talks to his sister. Is that his sister, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
She is the Queen of Denmark.
And she kind of agrees with him that they're blowing this out of proportion. And then later on, you see members of his council kind of talking behind his back about how this is unacceptable and something has to be done. Yeah,
Lord Grey and Charlotte? No. Hold on. I got it in my notes somewhere, damn it. Cambridge. I knew it was named after... I knew it was like a famous school. I was like, what is it? Cambridge. I wanted to say Charlemagne for some reason. But yeah, Cambridge and Grey are talking behind the king's back, and it's not necessarily like a plot for betrayal.
No.
Well, Grey actually kind of sounds like that. But Cambridge is still a little iffy on the subject.
Mm-hmm. It more or less seems they want to push him in a certain direction.
Yeah, everyone seems to want to influence the king.
Which his sister warned about, yeah.
Whether it's the archbishop, the noblemen, the people, or even sometimes John.
Mm-hmm.
Or who's that? I don't know the name of, like, the one general. I think he kind of was like an officer in the army or something.
I don't remember.
Yeah, he was always bitching about something. But yeah, he was always trying to influence him. Surprisingly, the one character that never seemed to influence him was the character that was influencing him all along.
Oh yeah,
it was William.
William, like, him and William's performances just like make this movie to what it is, really, in my opinion.
Yeah, I freaking loved William's character because I kind of thought of him as like the Tyrion of this movie. Because like he's always like under stupid idiot kings, and then he finally meets the one king that's like smart and intelligent and a man of the people, and he's excited. He's like, if that is what you wish, then I will not blah 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 blah.
So
yeah,
the plot continues when the king cuts off two of the people who were possibly conspiring against him with the French.
Yeah, so Gray and Cambridge,
which is
were
brutal.
Executed. Yeah,
utterly brutal how it happens.
Which is super sad because Cambridge, as we learn later, wasn't the one who was giving information, and Cambridge was like Hal's older brother, and he was his cousin, and he was his good friend. And, you know, duty comes before bond in most cases, so Hal had to execute him. Which, realistically, it wasn't bad for Hal to do something like that, because back in the day, when you suspected someone of treachery, you couldn't really prove it that well.
Yeah.
Like, these are just rumors, and you have to decide based on the person's demeanor and like their overall personality on whether or not you believe these rumors or not. So realistically, the person who considers himself close friends with the king, who isn't really too personal with him but has been personal in the past, that very much can be a potential spy if the French offered him something. I mean, yeah, John is a little different because John practically raised Hal after a certain point. Hal no longer wanted to, after Hal decided he no longer wanted to be the heir to the throne, so he didn't pursue being king anymore.
Yeah.
And he just partied and stuff like that with John. And John, being the retired soldier that he is, happily partied.
All the characters play off really well with each other. And events continue when supposedly a French spy was set to assassinate Hal, and he decides to not do it and go straight to Gray. Is it Gray? No, it's William, and talk about how the French were plotting to do this.
Yeah, for those of you who are following along, William is kind of like the hand of the king in this movie. That's kind of the role he plays. Is it like, would that be a duke in real life? Is that what dukes did?
I'm
not familiar with like monarchy and shit like that.
I'm not too versed on historical.
He's the vice president. That's essentially his role. But yeah, he goes to William. He seeks advice, and William's like, this would be a show of weakness if we do not respond.
So he writes a letter to the King of France along with what are they called? Gunstones? Gunstones, there we go. With a box full of gunstones saying, hey, if you want war, we'll bring you war. And
yeah.
And most of
Which
this
is
movie, go ahead.
A little short-sighted and idiotic because Britain has literally just gotten out of like a massive civil war.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously their troop numbers are really depleted, and there's a lot of kingdoms that aren't even going to support the crown if they go to war with France.
Mm-hmm.
So this notion was just decided by the council, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people who were in that council who wanted the war to happen are just kind of having their fingers crossed, because that's just how ignorant they are. They see the benefit for themselves at the end of the war, but they don't really care about the logistics of it.
And after that, most of this movie is him going and laying siege to a French castle, and then going to war with their forces.
The rest of this movie is just Hal butt-fucking the French.
Pretty much.
This is all he does. He just gets fat dubs against the French constantly.
You meet the Prince of France, who is he's the worst. The absolute worst.
The donut.
Oh my god, I hated him. Robert Pattinson
Yeah.
is an amazing actor because he can play horrible people just so well.
Yeah, after Twilight, I didn't really think Robert Pattinson could be a good actor, because everyone in Twilight was just a boring blank slate piece of shit.
Mm-hmm. Turns out it was just the source material.
Turns out it's just that's what they were told to be. Because Kristen Stewart played, what's her name in that one movie, and she came off as great. I don't know. I remember seeing a movie with her in it.
She was good in Panic Room. Robert Pattinson.
Panic Room?
Yeah, that's a bit of an older movie. Coming soon to watch it again. Probably not.
Damn it.
We'll see. It's a possibility.
Okay. But yeah, the assassination attempt, the supposed assassination attempt on Hal, is where I would put the metaphorical foot on the gas pedal.
Mm-hmm.
And fucking amazingly, I guess, this was foreseen or whatever, but who does Hal anoint as the leader of the campaign? Not a fucking lord or a nobleman. He anoints a former soldier.
Yeah.
Like an actual person who has been to war. That's who he decides to lead the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone just has to deal with it.
Man, the Archduke is so mad.
Dude, the Archduke, I wanted to punch the Archduke at least
horrible.
like 10 times in this movie.
He was a horrible person. I hated him. Did you see how he was riding in like a little like carriage drawn by two horses, like one in front, one in back?
That's
rickshaw
so
or something
funny.
like that. Like everyone else was walking, even the king was walking, and he's in this little thing.
Yeah, and then like there was the one scene with the priest being carried
Yes.
by the two knights.
Mm-hmm.
The symbolism in this movie for like I guess like mocking the church and how idiotic it was in the previous days for people to go to war for religious reasons, because fucking the entire plan for conquering France from the Archbishop's perspective is that that's a pathway to the Holy Land. We can retake Jerusalem.
Yes.
That's his plan.
And Hal is not down.
And it's so funny that Hal was like, the Holy Land, you say? Are we there already? Like, it's so clear to like see through. And by the way, this isn't, me and Noah aren't criticizing the modern day church or whatever. We're not criticizing the idea of religion.
Greg isn't.
Okay, we're just, Greg isn't. At least.
I'm not going to talk about my views of religion right now.
Believe in what you want to believe.
Subscribe to my OnlyFans for late. No.
There is stuff to criticize, yeah, but like I'm not just gonna openly go against anything or something like that. But anyway, this movie does a great job, because a lot of people were expecting this movie to just be a gritty war movie, but in reality, it's a great criticism of society and
Hal wants peace.
warfare.
He doesn't want to go to war. He's like, England has seen enough bloodshed, and we need to stop. We need to live in an era of peace.
Yeah, and it brings forth that gruel reality that what's the easiest way to unite a people? Find a common enemy.
That and marriage.
Oh, no.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, and like, you can see Hal kind of devolve and evolve over time, like at kind of somewhat of an equal rate, because like he'll evolve as a great leader and he'll do all this smart stuff, but then he'll do one rash decision that brings him down significantly in points,
which usually is rage filled because someone does something to his people or something to that extent. Like
the scene where the wood boys go out into the woods to get firewood, and the dolphin kills all of them.
Except for one, and he makes him carry one kid's... He makes one of the children who he spared carry another child's severed head back to the camp directly.
And they show it.
Yeah.
They show it, so if you didn't like it, you're not going to like this movie.
And like at that point, he's like, I want you to take every single French prisoner we have, execute them, and put them up on spikes.
Yeah, and that's something that, you know, is an actual good criticism, because you can't blame the people for something their leader does, because realistically they're just there because if they weren't there, they would be traitors. Because, like, you know, this is a little controversial, but, you know, not every member of the Wehrmacht were Nazis. You know, it's kind of like that kind of analogy, you know? Every French soldier isn't a believer of what the Dolphin does. Like, we see when, during the siege, after the siege, the French guys surrender to Hal, and Hal helps up their leader off of his knees. And you, like, kind of get the sense that, oh, they're just going to be treated right, you know? But, I mean, realistically, you can't do that. Because, you know, they're under orders, they have to do something, and if you execute them, you're just setting an example for your future prisoners. Like, why would your prisoners be obedient if they know that you're just going to execute?
And he doesn't necessarily get like talked out of doing it. He
John
just gets told no by John.
You're a fucking idiot. And then he walks out of the tent.
Yeah, he's like, you're not that type of man, and I'm not going to allow you to be that type of man.
John's a character who doesn't have a lot of lines or a lot of screen time, but you care about him a lot.
And he tells you why exactly in the movie, too.
And then he does the Midwestern thing where he smells the rain on his knees. I feel it in my bones, Annie. Storms are coming.
He can feel it in his knees. My knees. My knees only ache. Oh, God. We're bringing up Star Wars again. Anyway.
Yeah, and then another thing that
I'm going to put, like, Watto in the thumbnail of this.
Super well, the actual siege itself. Depicting a siege. So, the siege was nothing but the British launching fiery rock after fiery rock at a castle. There was no actual soldiers fighting each other. And realistically, that's what sieges are.
Can we say how nice it was?
Yeah, trebuchets. I'm sorry. For the normies out there.
Nice it was to see trebuchets and not freaking catapults.
Trebuchet is just massive catapult. Yeah. It uses physics a lot better.
That's on steroids, and it's way better. He wins it bloodlessly on his side. Not a single Englishman died in that siege, which, you know...
Yeah, and that general who was getting impatient was like, you have to storm the castle. You have to storm the castle. I guess that guy helped write Game of Thrones Season 8.
Oh, God.
Anyway, why would you storm a castle if you have the means to bring the castle down? Like, if you think about it for a second, that makes more sense. You just shoot stuff at the castle until the people in the castle go, okay, I'm tired of flaming rocks. I give up.
We're out of food. Please stop.
Yeah, that's what happened with Athens. Sparta surrounded Athens, and they just waited. that's realistically what sieges are. Sieges rarely have actual fighting, man-to-man fighting. And the notion where like a castle siege is soldiers taking ladders and climbing up on stuff, that's not a siege. That's, well, admittedly that's a siege, but it's a different kind of siege. It's a fantasy siege, you know?
Not to say that like that didn't happen at one point in time, because it might have, but it's less realistic.
Well, no, those kind of sieges were mainly for larger armies that didn't really give a flying fuck. And it's like when technology was back at a point where actually storming over a castle wall was feasible. Like the Vikings, for example. The Vikings always just climbed over fucking walls and just started wreaking havoc on people.
Have you seen the show Vikings?
Yes, I have.
It's great. Maybe we should talk about that one day.
It's not historically accurate, though.
Not all of it. Some of it is.
Yeah, a bit of it's fantasy, in a sense, but for the most part, yeah, it was really well done.
Anyway, coming soon to watch it again.
We're gonna review an entire TV show?
Season by season. Anyway.
This is how it starts. We review one TV show, and now everyone's wanting us to watch Jessica Jones. We're not doing it.
Watch Jessica Jones.
Anyway. The siege is when the Archbishop comes. He finally lands in France, and he's like, "What is going on? Why is this taking so long? This is not how I reach the Holy Land." This is impeding progress.
I like Hal was like, "Sit down, boy."
Yeah, both the general... I'm calling him the general because I don't know what his fucking name is, but like the guy who constantly talked during military stuff. Those two were so stupid, just idiotic. They have no idea. Like, why... Assuming France has not been in a war recently, it's safe to say that they have more soldiers than Britain does.
They did.
Yeah, they ended up having
more
than twice the amount of soldiers that Britain did. And these guys are just saying, so what? We'll lose a few soldiers, so what? And John and Hal are like, yeah, we're going to lose soldiers, but we can't afford to lose soldiers right now. It's just... And oh my god, and the Archbishop says, why don't you just go around the castle? And Hal literally gets up and leaves the tent. I love that so much.
I want to get to Jerusalem by nightfall, just to go around the castle.
This is not how I planned the 20th Crusade.
Where are my knights?
I assume the Crusades took place like 400 years before this movie or something.
Probably.
Yeah. Those weren't pretty either.
No, they weren't, especially when the Pope decided to excommunicate them and start killing off every Templar.
Yeah, it's awful. A lot of people don't know that one of the Crusades was against Christianity.
Yes.
Like, it was Christians versus Christians. That's one of the... I think it was the Fourth Crusade was Christians versus Christians. But anyway, yeah. So that's kind of where you get this sense of like, wow, Hal and John are really surrounded by idiots, aren't they?
Yeah, they really were.
And it's so laughable because when it comes to the point in the movie where they actually have to do battle with the French forces, they're like, retreat! We can't do this, dude, retreat! And I'm literally sitting here like, you asked for this. Is this not what you wanted? And surprisingly, William is quiet the entire time, too. I don't know if it's like implied that William was a soldier at one point because he has that limp. He has that bad back. But
I thought that was the gout anyway.
Yeah. You get this like fake, like, you get a sense of like understanding with William, and it pays off in the end because it's heartbreaking. But so John comes up with this super smart plan that essentially is the embodiment of medieval warfare.
Mm.
So heavy armor can sometimes be a super bad idea.
Especially when it's muddy. And guess what?
Especially when it's
gonna
muddy
rain
and
tonight.
slippery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot of people out there who are like, oh, well, medieval knight armor is superior to all other types of armor because of how impenetrable it is.
Not to
And
guns.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that. But,
We'll get into that later.
At the time,
Yeah, at the time.
it was the most durable armor ever. And
Mhm.
realistically, yeah, it was. But the Vikings figured
With
out,
chainmail
hey,
and leather.
big lumbering armor dude kind of sucks at fighting.
I was like, wow, he can't see and he's slow.
Yeah, like
Double axe go swing.
if you get knocked on your ass in knight armor, it's going to be a struggle to get up. And if you get knocked on your ass, the fight's eventually over. It's essentially over. Whoever falls down first is essentially the loser. That's kind of how medieval fighting is in full knight armor. And probably going to be some people out there who are like, no, I can do backflips in my knight armor. Yeah, that's nice. Cool. The average Joe can't do that.
Right, yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, Mr. Acrobatic Knight, but a medieval nobleman who purchased some armor can't do that.
So they can't do flying butterfly kicks.
They can't do flying butterfly kicks. This also isn't me defending other types of armor like Japanese bamboo armor. That was stupid too.
Anyway.
But realistically, the Japanese only had to fight against samurai swords, katanas, which is the worst weapon ever made. I'm sorry.
Great.
I'm sorry.
Now we lost the weeb audience. Thanks, Greg.
I'm sorry, damn it. No, we
Anyway.
haven't. They're just going to watch our videos out of spite, and they're going to comment. We got more viewers because I said that.
Anyway, so Hal gives the prince an out. He's like, listen, fight me 1-to-1, and we don't have to do this battle. And, the French prick's like, are you scared of me?
It is okay to admit that you are scared. With your big balls and your tiny penis.
And
The
then,
actual line from the movie, by the way.
Yes, and then the English wreck the French army. Just wreck them.
Because John came up with a smart plan. He was like, it's going to rain tonight because I smell it. I feel it in my bones, Annie. And it does end up raining, which makes the field that they're going to fight on muddy. And the British are like, hey, wear light armor and don't ride on horseback.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be muddy. Doing this would, of course, the French would realize this if they all didn't have armor on. And they'd be like, wait, what's going on here? So John sacrifices himself by leading the vanguard in full knight armor.
You never want to be in the vanguard.
No, you never want to be in the vanguard. And yeah, this is legitimately a realistic look of how two fully armored plated armies collide. They just wrestle with fucking each other.
Pretty much, yeah.
And so in real life, this battle is somewhat unrealistic in the sense that it's really hard to distinguish who's the British knight and who's the French knight. In real life, they would have colors.
Yeah,
They would have colors on their
that's
armor.
true.
You would be able to tell what's a British knight, what's a French knight. That movie didn't capture that well. But admittedly, it's super awesome that they got all these extras to wear all this armor. That must have been expensive as hell.
Probably, yeah.
Like, that's probably where literally 70% of the movie budget probably went.
Netflix using their Adam Sandler money.
Dude, I don't even think Netflix really made this movie. I think this was just some other studio, and then Netflix just took them over.
Possibly.
This
Netflix
doesn't
has made some other
seem
good
like
movies.
a Netflix movie.
Maybe. I have seen some pretty good Netflix movies. Not a lot of them, but I have seen a few.
Yeah, and like, all right, so I'm not gonna go on another tangent. We're 50 minutes in anyway. So the battle ensues, and turns out the British were right. It's too muddy to wear full armor and horseback, because Hal and the other people who wore light armor come out of the forest and just start fucking murdering the hapless knights that are on the ground. And it's not even that much of a one-sided battle because we see Hal getting knocked the fuck around by all the chaos. Like, he gets almost trampled by a horse at one point. He just flies into a group of people.
God, you hear this one horse legs just crunch, and I'm just like, oh God, I can feel it.
Oh yeah, sound effects fucking on par.
And so the French prince, the Dauphin, doesn't go into battle. He sits like with his like little buddies who are knights, eating grapes like in his fancy chair, like watching the battle, going, "I'm too good for this."
Yeah, that was kind of. I feel like there was going to be a transition there, but they cut it from the movie because at some random point the Dauphin realizes that this is a losing fight for the French, and he decides to go down to face Hal. And hey, guess what? He's wearing full plate armor, so we finally get the reward of seeing the Dauphin look like a fucking idiot. And guess what? He gets shanked by peasants.
He doesn't even, like, Hal doesn't even bother. He just, like, whistles and points at him, and, like, the peasants jump him.
Yeah, a bunch of peasants just start stabbing him with
His
knives.
entourage doesn't even care. They stay on their horses and don't do anything.
Yeah, they literally stare at their prince just haplessly going about in the mud. Yeah, the donut.
Donuts.
The donut dies. The donut becomes a donut because they stab him in the chest multiple times. I assume it creates a big hole.
So we cut after that, and we're at the palace where the King of France is. And he's like, hopefully we're men of reason, and we can talk about this and find a solution that'll make us all happy. And he's like, I will totally give you the kingdom, but will you marry my daughter?
Yeah. That's kind of like Shakespeare's, like, randomness. He does do that kind of random stuff, like, at some points.
Which does make sense. Like, his son's dead at this point. He only has one person to carry on his legacy, and at least his grandson will be king. So it makes sense. What he did was smart. It was very smart.
And then, like, I don't know what this movie is implying because I don't think Britain ever took over France at any point in history.
We might have. I don't know.
I think this was kind of just Shakespeare, like, boasting as a British person. Because he's a little stubborn asshole. Yeah, Shakespeare, like, really dramatically made this, and it's kind of like an exaggeration. The French are really exaggerated in this movie. Just essentially. That's essentially it.
And we cut after that because he decides to do it. And you see them, the Princess of France and Hal are talking. And she's like, why did you attack France? And he's like, well, they sent an assassin. And she went, no, we didn't. He's like, well, what do you mean? He's like,
yeah, she drops the cold, hard fucking truth on Hal.
Yeah, like,
makes him look like an idiot.
Is a lot of things, but he doesn't lie. And when you accused him of that, I saw him laugh, and not just like any laugh, like a great big belly laugh. He's like, well, what about your brother? He's too stupid to do anything like that.
Yeah, and then she talks about the ball, and like how the ball, it's idiotic to go to war over a ball, and Hal essentially did.
Yeah.
Just because he had a bunch of people hyping him up in his court.
So he goes to see William, and it turns out that William planted the fake assassin, and he just, like, he questions him, trying to grill him down, and eventually he has enough, and he's like, just stop with this fucking charade.
Yeah, it's revealed that William has been planning the war all along, and he's been influencing Hal in ways that we didn't see, and this is the part where you realize, oh my god, Gray and Cambridge were innocent because it was William. William was the one just doing all this shit.
It adds to one of my favorite lines in the movie where William breaks his composure and says, didn't I give you what you wanted, boy? I gave you peace.
Yeah, and then he also drops the cold hard truth where it's like people, like, peace is bred through victory. True peace is bred through victory.
And Hal just starts shanking him. Like, He just kills him
Oh,
right then and
dude,
there.
he didn't start shanking him. He like William was like begging for his forgiveness, and then he just dunked on the back of his fucking neck real quick with a dagger, and that was it for William. William tapped out.
And before that, like we saw him talking to the princess, and she's like, "You have to understand, I'm not just gonna submit to you. You're gonna have to earn my respect." And when you see him walk to her, it's just sort of like known that I took care of the problem.
Yeah, Hal is truly king now. And you know, it's that in itself is super, super sad because with William playing the war and all this stuff, John died for nothing.
Yeah, it is
John
a bummer.
died in vain.
Although I will argue that with how arrogant the Dom fan was, the donut, he would have started war whenever he became king.
Sure, yeah.
I will argue that he was such an arrogant prick.
Yeah, the Dolphin was a super exaggerated villain in this film. I don't know who the Dolphin is based off of in real life or if he was an actual person. This is how much I know about fucking European history. I don't even know if Henry V was a real fucking person.
Yes, he was. He's considered one of
good.
the greatest kings of England.
Really? So he actually was a benevolent badass.
Him and William III, I think, are considered two of the greatest kings. Do you know who's considered the worst?
Henry IV?
Henry VIII.
Oh yeah, Henry VIII killed all of his wives, right?
And founded his own church.
Yeah. I don't need to divorce I could just kill them.
I'm king. I can pardon myself.
Stupid. Yeah.
Anyway.
This movie doesn't end very happily. It's a very sour taste.
It is.
But then again, sour Skittles exist for a reason.
Like,
because people like them.
I wanted it to be an extra hour long, to be completely honest.
Really?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I could see that. Because I was thinking about this as... Again, I was comparing this to Game of Thrones a lot. And it actually felt like 4 seasons of Game of Thrones crammed into 2 hours of movie. And I say cram lightly because it did well.
It did it well, yeah.
It did it really well. There was one moment where someone says, "Oh, it's been weeks since we've seen Hal," and I was like, "It's been 10 minutes. What you mean?" Like, at some points, there's like no clear distinction of time passing, and then there are very distinct moments of time passing.
They just fast traveled to the French frontier.
Oh yeah. Well, how long would it have been to cross the English Channel back then?
A couple weeks, I'm sure.
Really?
I have no clue.
I assume it would be like, a few days to cross the
That's
English
fair.
Channel with that old of ship. Cuz it takes months to get to America from Britain with those kind of ships. So I'm assuming it's just 10 days, like, or so.
Anyway, we're getting kind of short on time, so I guess we should wrap this up.
Yeah. Final thoughts on the movie, Noah? Do you recommend it? What's the
Oh,
rating?
yeah. I definitely recommend this. I give it a strong recommendation. I really enjoyed it.
I give it a strong recommendation too. I'd easily say this is an 8 out of 10 movie. Maybe more. I'd have to rewatch it a couple times, but for right now, yeah, it's a strong 8 out of 10.
I guess we should go clock out.
Yeah, we should leave a note for Meryl to find in the morning about how the dishwasher's broken.
It's a good idea.
Oh wait, Noah, you didn't. Oh, you actually just didn't close it all the way. That's why it wasn't turning.
Real quick. Real quick. Let me just. I got it. It won't work now.
Oh, I see. Yeah. You want me to make that go away?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I'll take care.
Like, remember what we did with the floor machine, Greg?
Yeah, I remember the floor machine. Poor bastard.
Didn't
Never
stand a
saw it
chance.
coming, the inanimate object.
Alright. I'll talk to you
All right.
tomorrow, Greg.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow, Noah.
Night.
Night.
Hi, this is Noah from Post Production. If you're wondering who edits these, well, that would be me. Anyway, if you like the show, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We'll be on iTunes soon, so I'll keep you updated for that. And if you want to help support the show, check out our Patreon. Anything you give would help.